Well, here are three possibilities for what could happen next. First, the government could delay the departure date, which would require permission from all 27 of the EU's other member states. There's also the chance Brexit will happen at the end of March without a deal. The government's projections are that such a scenario would shrink the British economy by 8%. Now, Theresa May has appealed to pro-Brexit MPs to back her deal by warning them that if she's defeated, there exists a real possibility Brexit won't happen at all, forcing her to abandon the project or hold a second referendum. Now, the nation is completely divided over Brexit, mainly because even though Brexiteers won the referendum, they only represent 37% of the entire electorate. Now, our correspondent Sarah Morris is at Westminster to tell us more about where Brexit stands on this crucial day. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Andrea. Well, it looks like Theresa May's deal, which we must point out is her baby. This is her vision of Brexit. It looks set for a crushing defeat here in the House of Parliament. The defeat is looking like it's going to be somewhere between 100 and 200 votes. That could be an historic defeat for an MP with a piece of legislation in this Parliament. Now, as we speak, Theresa May has gathered her cabinet for her weekly cabinet meeting. They could be talking about anything, but my money's on the fact they're probably talking about Brexit, and this will be Theresa May again appealing to her cabinet ministers and of course to the wider MP body here in the UK to back her deal. Like you just heard her say there are flaws. It is a compromise deal, but it's the best deal that's on the table. She will argue that these MPs need to think about how history will look at them, and she believes that this deal is the only one that offers a balance between offering Brexit, which is what was called for in the referendum, but also protecting the economy here in the UK. You mentioned there a number of options that could happen should this vote be lost. We think it's going to be lost. So to discuss a little bit more about those next step options, I'm joined by Aarti Shakur, who is a senior policy analyst with Open Europe. It's a think tank that focuses on European politics. Let's have a talk about what you think probably is going to happen next. She looks like she's going to lose this vote. There could be a vote of no confidence from the Labour Party. That won't go through. So really, what's Plan B for Theresa May?
So I think in terms of determining what Plan B will look like, it'll be very interesting to see today the other votes to take place, because of course alongside this big meaningful vote, MPs will also get to vote on a series of amendments, and these will outline a number of paths ahead. There will be a vote on customs union, there could be a vote on Norway, there could be a vote on a number of different options, and if we see MPs coalesce behind something, then perhaps we start to see what Plan B could look like. But right now, the difficulty is not just for the government, but for this Parliament, there isn't a clear idea of where that majority lies.
Theresa May's really kept her cards close to her chest as to what she's going to do next. One of the options, of course, is that she digs her heels in, like she's known for doing, and tries to bring this deal back to Parliament in the next couple of days, perhaps next week, a little bit after. Is there, do you think, an appetite within Europe to help her get this deal over the table? So far, they've given very little in terms of concessions. Do you think they've got something up their sleeve that they may be able to help with?
It's not unthinkable. I think you say that they haven't given much in terms of concessions, but tactically that makes sense. It looks very likely this will be voted down today. For a long time, I think MPs have priced that in. So the idea of the EU offering concessions ahead of this vote was always unlikely. It wouldn't have come to much. I think the question of whether or not the EU will offer concessions depends on what that looks like. If it is simply moving towards a slightly softer Brexit, i.e. a permanent customs union in the future, I could see the EU coming on board with that. But equally, it is whether or not those concessions will actually deliver the deal. If they are not confident that giving more will actually get this deal through Parliament, they may be more hesitant about doing so.
There were rumours earlier today that Angela Merkel perhaps may be willing to push for the Brexit backstop, which has been the sticking point of this deal, perhaps to put an end date on that backstop, which the European Union has been hesitant to do so far. We're being told from Germany this is absolutely not true. She won't do that, or she hasn't said at this point that she would do that. Merkel would help. But do you think that is perhaps the one concession that would get this deal over the line?
So I would say on the EU side, there's no indication that that is what they're willing to do. And certainly Ireland is unwilling for that. And Ireland has been held up here by the EU. If Ireland can agree to any adjustment to the backstop, then I'm sure the the rest of the EU27 would fall in line behind Ireland. I think one thing I would say is the government is clearly angling towards this. If the government can say an amendment that has been put down that says there is an expiry date to this backstop actually receives a good amount of support amongst MPs, it could turn to the EU and say, well, this is what I need. This is the settled position of my parliament. If we can deliver this, I can get this deal through. I think that's the government's tactics. Whether or not it will work is unclear yet.
Yeah, we need the Brexit looking glass because we don't know what's going to work. Thank you very much for your time there. Very clear that as we go into this vote now, it looks like Theresa May will lose. But what happens next, really nobody knows at this point. So many options on the table. A very interesting couple of days in UK politics ahead.
Indeed. Sarah Morris, thank you so much for joining us live there from Westminster. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron is hoping to solve some of his country's social and economic problems with a great national debate. It gets underway on Tuesday. Macron is giving people the chance to tell his government how they feel about institutional reform, taxes, citizenship, and green energy. The debate will last for 2 months and will take place in town halls and on the internet. Now, Macron is trying to quell 9 weeks of protests by the Yellow Vest movement, which began over rising fuel prices but then turned into general anti-government demonstrations. The government says it's still committed to its agenda of economic reform, but has pledged to listen to new ideas.
The message I would like to pass on to you today is a simple one. It is a message of will. Firstly, a will to hear out the French people, which is the meaning of the letter the French people have just seen and was addressed to them this morning by the President. A will to succeed in service of all French people. Our success, whether it be economic, financial or other, our success will either be collective or it won't.
Well, after a warning from U.S. President Donald Trump and an irritated response from Turkey, it seems Ankara and Washington have soothed some of the tension. Trump and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan spoke over the phone shortly after Trump tweeted that Turkey would be destroyed economically if it attacked Kurds in Syria. Now,